Vicky Cristina Barcelona, directed by Woody Allen, stars Scarlett Johansson, Javier Bardem, Rebecca Hall, and Penelope Cruz, who won the supporting actress Oscar for this role. The film takes place over a single summer in Barcelona. Two American friends, Vicky and Cristina, move there for a few months. Vicky, played by Rebecca Hall, is the more structured one, more sensible one. She's there to study Catalonian culture as part of her university degree, before going back to the US to marry her boring but reliable fiancé. Cristina is the free-spirited one. She's an unfulfilled actress who's trying to find something in her life, find herself, I guess, and hopefully also the meaning of love. The two of them end up meeting a Spanish painter, Juan Antonio, played by Bardem, who immediately strikes a conversation with the two of them and invites the pair for a weekend out of town, a weekend full of wine, good cuisine, and lovemaking. Vicky is appalled at the proposition. Cristina is intrigued. They talk it over and end up going. Vicky reluctantly, Cristina more enthusiastically. However, life has plans of its own, and the dynamics between all three of them end up going in slightly different direction than maybe expected at the beginning, especially when Juan Antonio's chaotic ex-wife, played by Penelope Cruz, enters the picture. So for a number of years, I heard a lot of good things about this film, and so by the time I finally decided, upon seeing it, I guess I had my expectations set quite high, and unfortunately I ended up being slightly disappointed. Mostly perhaps by the fact that the film doesn't seem to really make a strong point about anything. It is this summertime exploration of love, passion, relationships, flings, erotic fascination, inspiration in art, and all sorts of related things, but I couldn't help feel that it meanders a lot more than it should, and ultimately ends up being rather futile. Despite how much stuff happens between the first scene and the last, if you think about it, the characters are largely in the same spots as they were before. You can make a case they each gained, some new perspective, but no actual decisions are made. There is no turning point for any of the people involved. And maybe that was the point, but throughout the film's runtime, I felt like it was building up to something, only for that something to end up sort of fizzling away. Apart from the substance, I also didn't fully buy into the movie's style. Now, let's be clear, the locations, music, costumes, and general atmosphere are all fantastic, but there is one key element that I didn't enjoy, and that is the decision to employ voice-over narration. It's something that I generally hate in films. I consider it to be a crutch for the filmmaker to tell us things that he or she doesn't know how to tell, either through dialogue or visually. There are, of course, instances of voiceovers being used very cleverly, like in adaptation, for example, but this is not one of them. It is mostly just shameless exposition, and I think the narrative suffers from the fact that it needed to rely on such a cheap mechanism. Having said that, I think there are good elements to the movie. I already mentioned parts of the style that I enjoyed, and in general, production design is great. What is the best part of the film, though, are the performances. The obvious standout would be Penelope Cruz, who is terrific as usual, but I also really enjoyed watching Rebecca Hall. I think she inhabits the character really well, and it's just so easy to identify with her feelings and emotions and experiences. That is not to say that the other two leads are bad. On the contrary, I think both Bardem and Johansson are very good in this. And perhaps what's most important in a movie such as this is that all the people not only give great performances individually, but also have incredible chemistry between one another. You buy into their relationships and romances and fascinations because it seems obvious and natural by the way they talk and look at and interact with one another. On this front, I think the movie is nearly flawless. So, to sum this up in some way, I think Vicky Cristina Barcelona is an imperfect movie that, in my opinion, pretends like it has more to say about its themes than it actually does. But even despite those imperfections that I talked about, it manages to still be a rather decent movie that stands mainly on the shoulders of its performances.